Tonight I'm going to suck your blood.
Imagine, if you will, a game that had a combat and difficulty system inspired by Soulsborne games, a story with choices and dialogue paths like in Mass Effect, Batman's detective mode, and a leveling system similar to what you might find in an action-oriented RPG like a Bethesda game, or, anything that might have a skill tree type setup. Now take all those pieces and remove everything that makes them fun and give it fangs. Congratulations, you've just made Vampyr. A game with seemingly everything and nothing at the same time. A story-driven, Soulsborne-esque adventure where you play as a newborn vampire on a classic quest of discovery and revenge, who along the way must fight his indomitable thirst for blood as he tries to save his country from a horrific epidemic in times of war. On paper, this sounds like it should be fun, but it missed the mark completely and killed the neighbor's cat instead. Shit, there's a lot to unpack here. I wondered why I didn't see too many people talk about this game. At first, I thought that maybe it was the fault of bad advertising. But after putting some time into the game, now I know why no one's talking about it. Now, despite what the video title says, I am not flat out saying the game is bad. I'm just saying a lot of things in it do kind of suck, are dumb, or don't make any sense to me. I still found some enjoyment here or there, but as I began writing this review, I had yet to beat the game, and I don't know if I'm going to because it just lacks the ability to hold my interest and keep me wanting to play it.
You quitter! Quitter, boy! Quitter, boy!
There's so much shit to talk about in this game. Gameplay. Yeah. If you were to ask any semi-casual gamer what some of the most influential game titles within the last decade have been, they no doubt are gonna bring up FromSoft and Bloodborne or Dark Souls. The games are just insanely popular at this point. The series pretty much is a requirement for streamers to play now. And the market has been getting games trying to emulate their mechanics, difficulty, a lot of stuff like that. They've created their own genre, essentially. It's games like these that satisfy, I guess, the inner masochist in everyone, or something. Like, for some people that just lose it over it and keep playing it, I think that's the only logical explanation for that. Or just plain insanity, which, is pretty entertaining. Vampyr is one such game. Combat-wise, it tries to capture that Soulsborne feel, while at the same time balancing the action with a story and interactions that are more along the lines of pre-Souls RPGs, but we'll get to that stuff later. The problem here with the combat is something that echoes through the entire game. They didn't go far enough with anything. Combat is alright at first, but it doesn't take long for you to see that it is unbalanced, abusable, limited, and worst of all, stale. Okay, here it is. The million-dollar question. What is one word you should keep in mind when building your game's combat system? Is it A, repetitiveness, B, variety, C, style, or D, flow? Believe it or not, B, C, and D are all acceptable answers. Let's say you focus on variety. In this case, you might get something along the lines of traditional Soulsborne games. Bloodborne is a great example. You have main, offhand, and two-handed weapons available to you, just like in Vampyr. The variety in the game comes from the number of weapons available to you and how you can change between different forms of those weapons. Your first time playing through, you don't pick up too many weapons, but each weapon you find does have a distinct feel and weight. I mean, just look at the selection of weapons you have at the start of the game. You can either go with the cleaver, the cane, or the axe. Aside from these weapons each looking cool and playing differently, they each do one other thing. they express a sense of personality, reflect your play style and disposition as a hunter. Finding a new weapon in this game feels like a genuine discovery because each weapon is meticulously designed. Perfect example. However, variety in your options as the player character are nothing without enemy variety either. With the addition of new unique enemies, you are enticed to experiment more with the weapons and tools available to you. Style and flow are pretty interchangeable in my position, but crucial even in games with variety. But if you want to have a game with truly satisfying combat without multiple weapons, spells, moves, classes, etc., you need to put a little extra love into one or both of these things to get something fun. One of the best examples of a game expressing these ideals is easily Asura's Wrath. This game essentially has one attack button, but I have played this game multiple times. The main reason being because the combat is fast, stylish, and emotionally charged. In terms of variety and options in gameplay, there isn't much. It's pretty short, uses QuickTime events, and even rides that weird line between being a game and a movie game. Levels can feel like they're starting out pretty tame, but as you progress, it just consistently ramps up the speed, flair, and most importantly, the ferocity of the combat. The game has a specific art style and flow that complement each other into multiple explosive and glorious finishes. Senseless, over the top, fucking awesome action. Sure, the story is a bit convoluted, a bit nonsensical, but when Asura gets mad, we get mad too. When he's fighting, he's in the fight, and he takes us along for the ride. It's awesome. But what about Vampyr? Well, fuck, what about Vampyr? I think the one word they had in mind when building this game was repetitive. I don't want to nitpick about every single aspect about the combat, but I'm gonna. 1. The weapons. Every weapon feels the fucking same. Literally, they have different minor effects on the enemies or you, and that's about it. The hacksaw sword and machete, despite what the stats say, attack at the same speed. There's no variety in weight of weapons. Everything feels heavy and ineffective. Each attack feels like I'm slapping a raw piece of meat with the same bloody fart sound effect playing on every hit. Number 2, the enemies. The game has both monster and human enemies, but there are only like 3 or 4 of each kind of either that you will run into constantly throughout the game. All the enemies start to feel the same after a while, on top of looking the same. The human characters have maybe 3 different versions that are all boring and uninspired. The skull things all look the fucking same. And despite this thing looking like a badass wild werewolf, its attack patterns are almost identical to the other monsters in the game. I never feel like I'm fighting monsters or humans that want to kill me. I only feel the cold, calculated slaps of a lackluster AI program.
Really? I can't believe that. Oh, I get it, because that's a combat zone. This isn't a combat zone. That's why I can't even use attacks and shit. Look at look at that! Oh my god, that's so fucking funny.
Number 3, the difficulty, or lack thereof. So this game tells you right at the start it'll be harder the less people you eat. You get experience by eating people and taking their blood to put it into a lovely pool of mostly useless abilities. Most players like me are gonna find 1 or 2 optimal abilities and just use those because the game's way of balancing difficulty is giving everything a shit ton of health. And since your experience gains are small and everything that sounds remotely useful is expensive as fuck, you feel limited in your upgrade options and just stick to the same fucking tactic. By the time you've built up enough experience to get that one move that sounded cool, it's a waste to fucking buy it, because the skill will be at level 1 and hardly scratch the massive health pools of most enemies. However, this still doesn't make the game hard. Most enemies have a ton of health, are higher level than you, and will kill you in like 2 hits. But their attack patterns are boring and predictable. Earlier I said the combat is broken, and here's why. Enemies have stun meters. Stunned enemies can get grabbed, and you can suck their blood. Doing this will regenerate some of your health, damage the enemy, barely, and refill your blood meter, which is used for special moves. On top of that, once you grab an enemy to bite them, you become invincible for like a full 3 seconds or some shit. Then afterwards, for a little bit of blood, you can heal yourself and just do this repeatedly. No joke, the first 30 minutes into the game, I picked up a stake as an offhand weapon. Hitting a guy with a stake takes down about a third of the enemy's stun meter. So every fight, be it against a single enemy, a gang of enemies, a fucking boss, lets you use pretty much the same tactic. Hack slash, hack slash, hack slash, oops, took some damage, stake, 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 nom 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 nom. Maybe throw an additional self heal, or throw a blood spear at them. Rinse, repeat. That is pretty much every fight in this game in a nutshell, and I never felt like unequipping the stake was a good idea until I found a better stake. Honestly, this combat system doesn't work for what they are going for. They want to make the game hard like a Soulsborne game while at the same time making you feel like a powerful vampire. This doesn't work because part of the fundamental design of Soulsborne combat is that sense of helplessness, of being a pathetic fucking human forced to take on insurmountable odds. You aren't supposed to feel like an epic killing machine. You become one as you progress mainly through trial and error, rather than simply leveling up or getting some strong gear. Vampyr doesn't seem to understand this, and difficulty gets all fucked up as a result. Imagine what would happen to the difficulty balance of Dark Souls 3 if you had unlimited Estus flasks and were invincible whenever you used them. Welcome to Vampyr. Number 4, the level system. You level up by eating people, but you can't just eat people. No, it's gotta be a fucking ordeal. You can only eat people when the game says it's okay to, basically. The game wants to make you think like you have choices, but you don't. We never have choices. Ever. We're all caught on rails. We're all slowly rolling, unknowing of what lies ahead. But I know. It's our inevitable death. If anything, you would say the game actively tries to dissuade you from eating people. Example, I want this move and it costs about 3000 XP. I don't have that much. Maybe I can eat someone. How about this other doctor who's a real dickhead? Yeah, I'll eat him. But wait, says the game, holding a big stop sign. If you eat this guy now, you won't get the maximum amount of experience from him. Don't you want maximum experience? Why yes, I do, I says. But how do I do that? Oh, that's easy, says the game. First you gotta go across town to talk to some other person to find out where the dickhead doctor got his degree. Then you gotta go talk to some other guy on the other side of town to find out what his favorite breakfast cereal is. But now that you've done all that and are ready to eat this guy, you can't, because he stayed up late last night binge watching X-Files on Netflix. So now he's really tired today, and his tired person blood isn't good anymore. So now you gotta go to your hideout in the fucking ghetto and make him a Red Bull. Alright, now you're ready. He's in perfect healthy condition. You know all his deepest, darkest secrets. You can hypnotize him, take him into an alleyway, and rip his jugular out. But wait, hypnotize is a skill and has levels. Let's go ahead and look at your current level compared to the one you need. Oh, looks like you don't have a high enough level to Jedi mind trick this guy. You gotta play the game more, specifically the story, before you can eat the dickhead doctor. Just hope in the meantime he doesn't get hooked on Supernatural and start staying up late watching that on Netflix too. Wouldn't that just be another annoying step you have to take to eat the dickhead doctor for not even enough experience to buy that skill you want?
Are we having fun yet?
No. No, man. Shit, no, man.
The story and characters. So this game, like all good stories, just sort of starts. All we know is we're a guy, and we just woke up presumably from a night of heavy drinking, and getting attacked by a supernatural creature.
This black cape was found on the scene. Police are baffled.
We think we're dealing with a supernatural being, most likely a mummy. As a precaution, I've ordered the Egyptian wing of the Springfield Museum destroyed. Nice work, Ed.
No, they're wrong. The creature they seek is the walking undead. Nosferatu. Das Vampyr. A vampire.
These, vampires are make-believe, just like elves, gremlins, and Eskimos.
So immediately you eat your sister in the best acted voice scene of the year.
Mary. Jason!
Boy.
Chief McCloud.
Now starts your mission to get revenge for your sister and find out who turned you and why. You get a job as a doctor at a hospital and spend countless hours talking to people in the game that either won't let you eat them or aren't even worth eating. When you meet this other vampire lady, despite you guys knowing each other for like 2 seconds and blending about as well as water and oil, you become friends and eventually fall in love, I guess.
I touched her boob. Second base.
Holy crap, there is another vampire. He looks like a toughie. I wonder what his relevance in the story will be. Oh, it's for me to murder him the next time I see him, before I have any chance to learn about his character. Want to know my favorite type of character in games? Underdeveloped ones. Oh, and did I hit the jackpot with this? Wait, your sister isn't dead. She has also become Nosferatu. What a twist. And is totally insane, so we gotta kill her in the most emotional and heart-wrenching death scene of the year.
Bring it to a close. Let me sleep.
But seriously, I'm moving fast, so let's slow down a bit and just talk about this sister thing specifically. Mary. Yeah, let's talk about Mary. What a fucking wasted opportunity. Seriously, I understand that most stories need to have a thing to get the plot moving and whatnot, but I just don't give a shit here. I don't care when I killed Mary because I have no idea who she was. Finding out she was alive was, if anything, more annoying and predictable than anything. I'd spent the last like 5 hours trying to wipe her stupid memory from me because I didn't care. I'm sure my memory wipe would have been effective if it wasn't for the good doctor whining about him killing his sister every 2 seconds. I probably would have forgotten about her much fucking faster. I'm sorry, I don't care. They just didn't even try to establish their relationship after she dies with flashbacks or anything. They only have like one flashback for one thing that turns out to be irrelevant. Why not take some chances to show us how close they were? No, that's too much work. Instead, we are just going to have her be alive and regurgitate 10 fucking minutes of fucking exposition before you kill her. I'm not going to lie, this is around the point of the game where it really started to lose me. Vampire lore and rules. If you were gonna make a game about vampires, or fucking anything that has a set of pre-existing rules or lore that's kind of known by the general public and want to put a twist on it, that's fine. The thing about doing that though is you gotta make sure it makes sense. 10 plus hours into this game of being a vampire and I still don't fully fucking understand the rules of being a vampire or how to make another vampire. And of course everyone you talk to that could tell you or should have information on it has to be either a cryptic asshole or give you information that contradicts something you saw earlier. So at one point you were told vampires can only be made by tasting the blood of a vampire.
How is it done?
The process is dangerous. It could even kill your potential progeny. If you did decide to sire an offspring, they must drink of your blood, Jonathan.
You are pretty much told that vampires can't be made without intent for the most part. I can only assume that tasting of the vampire's blood means just that. However, you just bite your sister, and she turns into a powerful ass vampire.
If only I had known then how vampires are created.
That is the scientist speaking. In truth, most of us do not know how it really works.
You're a bitch.
You also got different classes of vampires. They're all vampires, they just are from different countries, I guess.
Quite the rare breed. Ferociously territorial. Mortals often mistake them for werewolves.
What? This guy's mistaken for a werewolf? Why isn't this thing fucking mistaken for a werewolf? That looks a hell of a lot more like a fucking werewolf. This guy looks like fucking Boo Berry. The game has lots of diary entries, notes, letters, pamphlets, and a whole bunch of other shit lying around the world to pick up on the lore of vampires, the vampire hunters, and the boring ass lives of the town's residents. There used to be a time I would read everything I would pick up. Now I just don't fucking bother. If I could put this game into percentages, it'd be 35% gameplay, 15% reading notes and shit, 40% talking to people, and then 10% load screens. That's not a good fucking sign when I'm not interested to read anything I pick up, because I have already been conditioned to know the information contained is either useless or no. There's no or about it. Everything's just useless mainly. I mean, let's be honest, I don't really need to know the history of all vampire classes in the game and their weaknesses, idiosyncrasies, all that shit, because they all have the same weakness in the end. Getting repeatedly smacked with a stake. This brings me to my final problem with the game though, probably my biggest issue of all. Why don't I feel like a vampire? If I had to give an example of what movie vampire I feel like most of the time while playing this game, it would be Nick Cage from Kiss of the Vampire. Because despite the powers you have, I don't very much feel like a vampire. More just like a weirdo who thinks he is one, minus the emotionally abused secretary.
Every other secretary who's been here longer than you, Alva. Every one. And even if there was someone here who was here just one day longer than you, I still wouldn't ask that person to partake in such a miserable job as long as you were around. That's right, Alva. It's a horrible, horrible job. Sifting through old contract after old contract. I couldn't think of a more horrible job if I wanted to. And you have to do it. You have to, or I'll fire you. Do you understand?
By trying to make the games difficult like Souls games, you don't feel powerful. Most humans you run into are stronger than you. Most other vampires are stronger than you. Despite a large part of the fucking story being that you were obviously sired by an ancient and powerful vampire, so you should be a cut above the rest, right? Nope, not at all. The game tells you you're the chosen one, while at the same time making you feel like a weak, generic asshole. This is honestly where I feel they made the biggest error in the game. The game needs more cannon fodder, basically. I'm a fucking vampire. Normal humans shouldn't stand a chance against me. Instead, they take away a quarter of my health with a majority of their attacks. Fighting humans or other monsters has almost no effect, and would be a worthless action if the mechanics weren't so broken and abusable. Another thing that's fucking annoying is how people react to you. I don't care if these guys are fucking vampire hunters. They are still human, and they should still know what the hell they're up against. Remember how I said this game has Batman's detective mode? Yeah, well it does, except it's useless, and is pretty much only used for trailing missions and nothing else. What the game should have taken from Arkham was the ability for AI to get scared. Yeah, that was always great in those games, right? You sneak around, take some guys out one by one, until the last guy starts freaking out. You shoot in shadows and shouting and shit. It's great. It makes you feel like a hunter, a predator, like Batman. You don't think in a game where you literally are a monster that hunts and eats humans would take something like this into account? But no, everyone you see either doesn't give a fuck that you're a vampire and will blindly attack you without fear, or just thinks you're a normal dude, even when you are white as a sheet and bleeding from the eyes. Isn't there supposed to be an epidemic going on in this game? How are people even letting you get close to them looking like that, dude? What the fuck? Let me just talk about the people for a second too in the town. Just the town in general, the map, it's just so bad. I understand what you guys are going for with the districts, but honestly, I just think that they're worthless. I mean, sure, you can have different areas of the map, but that these districts are not affecting other ones nearby them, that they all just kind of have their own compressed ecosystem, it doesn't so much work for me. The map's already small. It's nowhere near the size of any of the Dark Souls games, or Bloodborne or anything. The biggest problem with this setup of the districts is it helps the game feel less lived in. There's also no concept of fucking time. Nights last forever, and everyone is awake at night apparently. And they just stay up all fucking night. I think what this game should have done, in my opinion, is something that was perfected a long time ago by Majora's Mask. The concept that there's an internal clock. Certain actions will be taken on certain days. Why not have some of the people in the districts move to other districts? Why not have them have specific actions that they do during the day that are randomized? Why not have people actually go to sleep? Because people sleep. I mean, this guy fucking runs a store. You would think the store is never fucking open. But no, he stays up 24/7. That's customer service. But seriously, these actions don't make the world feel real or the characters real. Because they'll just kind of stand around like doofuses all night long. And you're never going to run the risk of staying out too long for the sun to come up and then just die horribly. Because for one, in this game's vampire lore, sun doesn't kill vampires. It turns them to like a screaming skeleton, and then they just regenerate later. So you just gotta cut its head off. So whatever, you know, that's fine. I get that, but keep in mind that you could have had something set up like in Majora's Mask where you have an internal clock. So every night you can't just stay out forever. You know, you can play around at night for say 30 minutes in game time. Maybe longer if you want to have it be longer. Sure, why not have it be 8 hours? You can do that. But then after that time is up, if you've been out on the same night for that long, the sun should be able to come up, you know? And maybe you'll start taking damage. And if you stay out there too long, you'll die and turn into a burning skeleton. Wouldn't that be like cool? But I don't make games. So, you know, my opinion doesn't matter. So yeah, let's recap. You do shit damage, everything hurts like hell, no one is afraid of you, most of your special moves are expensive and limited. The sound design is meh at best. The writing and voice acting is stuff of legend, and the game can't even seem to decide its own rules. It has some of these weird moments where it looks good, then suddenly it doesn't. Everything feels like it's fine, and then suddenly everything looks terrible, like the animators just stopped midway on the project and turned the cutscene in, and it made its way in the game. Like, look at this cutscene of you at your sister's funeral. Why does it look so bad? Am I the only one seeing this? What the hell? Is this a bug? Wouldn't surprise me. No wait, this must be one of the symptoms of the Spanish flu epidemic in the game. If your graphics are taking a hit, don't worry, you're not doomed yet. However, if you've already started T-posing, then I'm afraid you're beyond treatment. I think last I checked, the game had a 7 out of 10 on Steam. I mean, I understand why someone would give this game a high score, but I personally wouldn't. I can respect the ambition of the project and wanting to take all these different mechanics and make a new idea, but none of them are fleshed out enough. You can't expect to take dumbed down versions of mechanics from a bunch of popular games and expect them to work cohesively just because they work in their respective games. Those games were built with those mechanics in mind, and how they will affect the game's pacing, tone, and replayability. The game feels like it didn't take any of this stuff into account well enough, so it just becomes a hodgepodge of popular things trying to fit together. It's a bummer that it doesn't, because once you start to see some of the flaws, you begin to realize how limited you actually are in the game. And isn't that just the final nail in the coffin for any game? So if you want to play this game, or you have played it, are playing it, like it, whatever, awesome. I'm glad you're having fun, and I'm sorry that Soulsborne games are too hard for you and you have to settle for the red-headed stepchild. I give Vampyr 2 bite marks out of 5.